Welcome to another episode of the Leading Life Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Zook, and here is where we're going to talk about helping you become a stronger leader in all aspects of your life. All right, here we go. Right now, on today's episode, we're going to talk about feedback. Welcome to the Leading Life Podcast, where we talk about what it takes to help you grow, lead, and live with purpose. I'm your host, Andy Zook, and each episode is designed to give you simple, real-world tools to help you show up as your best self in work and in life. Because when you lead yourself well, you inspire others to do the same. Let this be the platform that will challenge you so you can achieve everything you deserve in this life. I want to give you the tools to help you be stronger at leading, the psychology behind it, and give you that leadership edge to even be more effective at whatever you do. And this is for all aspects of your life, helping you and others with courage, clarity, and care. Let's talk today about turning feedback into fuel. And really, this episode is about building a culture of trust and not of fear. And I'm going to teach you the method to help deliver feedback in a way that'll have a stronger impact and will ultimately be a win-win for all that are involved. But also, and most importantly, I want to have a real and honest conversation with you about this topic, because I have to call out a lot of nonsense that's said about feedback. You know, I hear a lot of leaders and managers go around, feedback is a gift and get as much as you can and blah, blah, blah. And you know, I got to tell you, honestly, seldom is all that feedback really a gift. It is usually someone's own personal agenda to get you to change into something they want, and not always necessarily something better for you and the organization and team. And sometimes I've even had bosses who have given me criticism just for criticism's sake. Like, the product is being delivered, it's top quality, the performance is strong, why are you finding one little thing to pick on? And I don't know if that makes them feel like, well, I guess I'm fulfilling my role as a leader. I would say, no, it's more like you're merely taking up time using words to make you feel like you're affecting change, but you're not. Feedback for our teams shouldn't be something that's obvious as much as something that they may not see themselves doing or something that they're lacking. Our job as leaders is to bring out the best in our people, and frankly, if we can't see that, then we probably shouldn't be leading. So what I'm saying is you need to carefully consider first, who is the person the feedback is coming from, the needs behind it, and how applicable is it to improving said behavior. And reflect on that before acting. So if you believe the feedback supports your performance and your improvement, then turn that into the fuel that will help you get there. And in this episode, we're going to reference Dr. Adam Grant, who is a professor of management and professor of psychology at the Wharton School of University in Pennsylvania. He is also a prominent organizational psychologist, best-selling author, and thought leader in leadership, work culture, and motivation. And I like what he says about feedback. He says feedback tends to focus on how well you did in the past, whereas advice and coaching shifts attention to how we can do better in the future. So let me ask you, what's your first reaction when someone says, hey, can I give you some feedback? Most people tense up. Feedback has become a trigger word when it should be a growth word. You know, I've had feedback or coaching go wrong so many times where team members get frustrated, or even worse, they don't want to change at all on how they're doing things or the process in which they're doing things needs to change. I've also received feedback myself that I didn't take well, and I couldn't see how to connect to it, and that spiraled longer than it needed to. So in great teams, feedback isn't about fault finding, it's about fuel. And when leaders shift from fear to growth, feedback becomes an engine of excellence. So why does it feel threatening? Well, honestly, the brain interprets feedback as a social threat, and that activates in our amygdala, right? So we begin fight, flight, or freeze. And many employees associate feedback with judgment or rejection. Poorly delivered feedback can equal ego defense, and then learning will shut down. Think about it this way. People don't fear feedback. They fear hearing bad news about the pride and the hard work they're putting into their performance. So let's reframe how we approach feedback. Let's think of feedback as data for development. Feedback is not who I am, it's information to help me improve what I do. Let's think of it like Adam Grant calls it advice and coaching for improved performance, leading, and being a more well-rounded team player. And I want to encourage you to model receiving feedback openly first. And I'm going to give you a great example of that. When Satya Nadella went to work for Microsoft in 2014, the company was struggling with a reputation for internal rivalry and stagnation. So their departments competed instead of collaborated, and their culture was described by employees as know-it-all. So one of the first things Nadella did when he was there at Microsoft was to ask for feedback, not from shareholders, but from the employees themselves. He asked them candidly what they thought was broken inside the company. And the message he heard over and over was, we need to stop being know-it-alls and start being learn-it-alls. I love that. That simple phrase, born from feedback, became a cultural reset for them. And so Nadella realized that he had to model that shift himself. And in early leadership meetings, instead of dominating conversations with ideas, he began asking questions like, hey, what did you learn this week? Or how are you helping others grow? He even asked his executive team for feedback on his own communication style and how it made them feel. One executive told him that his relentless optimism sometimes made it hard to bring him bad news. And Nadella didn't defend himself. He adjusted. He began practicing empathetic listening. In every meeting, he invited dissenting opinions and slowed down to understand perspectives before deciding. And over the next years, Microsoft's culture began to transform. Engagement scores rose. Innovation reignited, and employees described Nadella's leadership as human. Under his leadership, Microsoft values grew more than sixfold, not because of strategy, but because of psychological safety and humility born from feedback. So before you approach a coworker or a manager or anybody to deliver feedback, let's set the stage for how that will go better. And a lot of this was developed by Adam Grant. Number one, explain your intention up front. Before diving into a critique, start with something like, I'm going to give you these comments because I have a very high expectation and I know you can reach them. That framing helps the receiver feel supported rather than attacked. Then model vulnerability and remove the pedestal. Grant advises leaders to admit their own mistakes, show their own vulnerability, and normalize being coached. This helps others feel safe to accept feedback. For example, you might say in a team meeting, here's something I fumbled last week, and I'm sharing this with you so we can all learn. Give the person a choice and ask permission. Something like, hey, I noticed a few things going on. Do you want to hear some thoughts now? And when someone opts in to hearing that, they're going to be more receptive. And then avoid the feedback sandwich. The praise, critique, praise model, Grant calls it the compliment sandwich, often fails. The praise is discounted or the critique is buried. He recommends skipping the artificial structure and having a true, transparent dialogue. And then lastly, encourage. Grant suggests that when someone receives subpar feedback, they should give themselves a second score on how they respond to it. Like, maybe it was a D in performance, but I'm going to score myself an A+ for how I use this to improve. And I also want to add this as Andy Zook and not Adam Grant, that if you've got people on your team that are not open to learning, not open to a growth mindset, not open to coaching and feedback, they probably need to be off your team. Do not work yourself into a frenzy to try to improve people that don't want to improve. Trust me, I've made that mistake. So if you have people on your team that are not open to growing and learning and being able to be coached, they probably need to be off your team sooner than later, as I said. Okay, so let's dive into the feedback model. I think this is great, and I think it will really help how you improve the performance of your teams. It's called BOOST, and it is an acronym for balanced, observed, objective, specific, and timely. And this is really best for performance conversations where clarity and balance matter. So here's how it works. First, let's talk about balanced. What it means is that it's both positive reinforcement and developmental feedback. People hear criticism better when they also hear what's working well connected to it. It shows fairness and builds trust. So an example of this would be like, hey, you've done a great job creating structure for the team meetings. One thing that could make them even stronger is giving quieter team members a chance to contribute earlier on, right? Let's go to observed. Stick to what you personally saw or heard. That means only comment on behaviors you've directly witnessed, not hearsay or assumptions. I see that a lot out there. Why it matters is because feedback loses credibility if it's based on rumor or interpretation. So an example of that might sound like, in yesterday's huddle, I noticed you arrived a few minutes late, instead of, God, I hear you're always late for meetings. Next is objective. Leave out assumptions and exaggerations. What it means is that we focus on facts and outcomes, not personal opinions or labels. And that matters because it keeps the tone neutral and prevents defensiveness. So an example of this could sound like, when a customer asked about frame warranties, you said we didn't offer one, but we do. Let's make sure that everyone is using the updated script. Describe actions, not character. And then specific, zero in on clear examples, not general patterns. So be clear and concrete about the behavior. Vague feedback does not lead to change. People can't fix what they don't fully understand. So when you said, oh, I'll take care of that tomorrow, the customer seemed unsure. Maybe next time clarify with when and how you'll follow up. That would be an example of that. If the person could say, what do you mean? You're not being specific enough. And then lastly, timely. Give feedback as close to the event as possible. Do not wait 6 months down the road. Deliver feedback as soon as possible because the sooner it's shared, the more relevant and actionable and fair it will feel. So an example of that might be giving feedback right after a shift or a meeting, not a month later at review time. And boy, do I dislike review time when we talk about something that the person had no idea they were doing wrong and they never had a chance to course correct. Drives me insane. Timely feedback is respectful feedback. It shows you that you care enough to help someone grow in real time. And so here is your leadership edge for this episode. Please remember to celebrate feedback in the moment. You can't build a fearless culture if you're afraid of feedback yourself. So feedback should leave people feeling empowered, not embarrassed. And don't be afraid to ask as a leader, how am I doing? How can I do better for you? That is crucial. Once you're open with feedback, kind of like Satya Nadella in that Microsoft example, your people will be more open to taking it. And here's an important piece of advice that I can give you in delivering feedback and coaching. If there is no follow-up, it is literally flavor of the week. Heed those words, because I've seen it for a long time where we make something a priority, we coach people on it, and there's no follow-up. And you hear people in the business go, I guess that's flavor of the week. So do whatever you have to do to have notes in your phone or your journal or whatever you log down employee conversations in, what was discussed, when it was discussed, and set a time and date for follow-up. And make sure you have that actual follow-up. That will reinforce the behavior that you're trying to change or encourage. This is the biggest thing that leaders miss. They have a discussion with somebody about performance and talk about the importance of it, but by the next conversation, all of that's been forgotten, and there's no accountability to improve. And the employee ultimately feels no sense of importance to trying to enact the change to begin with. So here is your call to arms for this episode. I want you to have a vision in your mind of where your people's careers are going and what they're capable of. That's really what should be behind your feedback, not some micromanagement moment. But hey, how am I piecing this puzzle together of someone's career and building an incredible life? As a leader, it's your job to see that clearer than they can. It's your responsibility to make sure you bring the very best out of them and they start to see it too. So when you're delivering feedback, put that in the forefront of your mind before you begin. Again, it's your job to bring out the very best in your people. So a couple of final points. Feedback is not a mirror of weakness. Remember, it's a window into potential. Give or ask one piece of feedback this week and thank the person who gave it to you. That's the only thing I want you to do after you listen to this episode is just ask or give one piece of feedback this week using the BOOST model. And remember, BOOST is balanced, observed, objective, specific, and timely. Remember, think through your feedback before you just jump into a coaching. Make sure it's accurate, useful, and actionable. And if it's not going to help them be better or correct a behavior that's not conducive to the team, then get out of their way until you do have something impactful. All right, so that is my episode. I hope this impacted you for the better. Please leave me a rating or review on the platform you're hearing me on, and pass this episode on to a friend, family, coworker, somebody that you know could benefit. And don't forget ultimately to hit subscribe so you don't miss upcoming episodes. And lastly, remember, I want you to lead on, make an impact as a leader, be awesome you, but most importantly, go out today and be the hero of somebody's story. All right, until we talk again, thanks for listening. Have an awesome week. Take care. Bye.